Hey traders, Jonathan with Control the Trade, and we're doing another follow-up video on Baba. You can see the last couple days have definitely not been in favor of the bulls. In the previous videos, we did talk about the importance of 159.12, 168.50 to 169, and you can see what happened on this day here. We ran up to 168.45 and failed at the 169.50, and then we closed below the low of this candle, which is definitely bearish. I did talk about the possibility of a pullback, especially considering that this is in a horrendous downtrend. Breaking this downtrend is going to take a lot of work on the chart. It's not going to be as simple as just shooting back above the 20-period moving average. The reason that we really started looking at this and liking this is what looks like the pivot low right here. Look at all the volume on this day. So we're kind of using this as our baseline. And it's hard to see on this chart because I have a couple lines close together. I have 157.75, 159.12. 159.12 has definitely been important. And you can see today we ran under that number, and I'm going to show you a shorter time frame here. And then we closed right above that number, which is important. So let's get a few more clues on the charts here. Look at a 10-minute chart. You can see we just pretty much rode that level all day. Had a little fake out right here. We did gap down, of course. But check out the weekly chart. I find this interesting. When you're looking for a trend change, you want to see something like this, like a green doji. You prefer to have more of a hammer style doji, I'd say, but this pretty much looks like it got saved. We didn't close below the low of this candle. This candle is horrendous, obviously, but having this nice green doji here, most of the time, it's not guaranteed, that will be a sign of a turnaround, of a trend change. It's a bull bear fight, and then usually we'll get follow through to the upside. Now keep in mind we still are in that really bad downtrend, so it's still a lot of pressure on this stock. And then if you look at the monthly chart looks really bad actually. So we don't want to finish, for the bull case, you don't want to finish below the low of this candle, which is 179.67. We only have a couple trading days left to get back above that. We at least want to close at, say, 180 if you want to keep this trend alive. So it's going to take a remarkable run the next 2 days to kind of save the chart on the monthly, the long-term chart here. So also what you can see is by gapping down, we ended up basically filling the gap that was left open here. We closed at 161.06 and gapped up, and then you can see that we closed here at 165.24 and gapped down. So the next trading day is going to be really interesting. We're kind of in that middle ground right now where are we going to have another move up to grind back up to 168.50, or are we going to go back and retest the 152.80? The way this has been looking is that this was the low, but anything can happen when you're trending down like this. So that's just an awareness. I do want to show you something really interesting. We'll call it esoteric. We'll call it, you might think I'm crazy, but I think this is really interesting, especially when we talk about putting the low in. And this is kind of solidifying that number for me. Let's look at a weekly chart for a better view. Okay, you can see here the high here, and stay with me on this for a second. The high here is 319.32. What is half of 319.32? It's 159.66. We closed at 159.47. This has been a really important zone. A lot of the times, not all the time, once a stock hits its peak or hits its high, and then you get a hard pullback, you can typically count on 50% of the move being support. Now I'll show you another interesting number here. So that was the high, but check out the closing price here, which is 304.69. Half of 304.69 is 152.34. And what's the low here? 152.80. So I'd say that did the job. That I pretty much put in the math that I'd be looking for to kind of put in that bottom. Again, it's not guaranteed, but it is something to consider that a lot of people don't look at when they're looking at charts. This is not a position that I'm holding. If this was a stock that you were trying to set up for a swing trade, I'd say this is a great risk-reward opportunity here. If we know that we're wrong, let's say below these two levels here, or even all the way down to 152.80, we know that's our risk in that general area. So you could have a couple levels of risk. Maybe you get stopped out, on a daily close below 159 or below 157. Then it's no good and you want to be on the sidelines. So there's not much risk there. Whereas we definitely have a lot of upside here We talked about in a previous video that I could easily see this running back up to 184.25, up to 194.50. Even if it did that, it would still be somewhat bearish anyway, and probably would be rejected up in this area and continue lower, maybe consolidating for a while. So it's kind of a short-term opportunity here. Just knowing that the low might be in right here is interesting. But you might get a fake out right here. This I would have called this a pivot low right here. And you can see we did have a nice little comeback here, and then we got rejected. We never crossed the 20-period moving average here. So I think that's pretty interesting here, and you can see that we've been sloping down ever since. I believe this will come back to meet the 20-period moving average sooner or later. Whether it's going to get rejected there or not, we'll have to see in real time. So that's my quick follow-up on BABA. I hope this video was helpful. Please like and subscribe, and if you have any questions, throw them in the comments and I'll be happy to answer. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, don't let the trade control you.